All right. Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody, to our AI literacy training today. The Department of Teaching and Learning, Regan White and I will be giving this today. Regan is our instructional designer. I think most people know him by now. Uh, AI, it's a huge field, and the amount of information, it just keeps expanding. So every time Regan and I have a 15-minute meeting over what we're going to talk about, it goes on to an hour and a half because it just gets more and more unwieldy, And it's like, which part of the elephant do we want to talk about today, and how are we going to describe it? It's really huge, and it's very interesting to us. But to start off today, we want you to think a minute about what are your most important questions or concerns right now about AI in your professional work at Grayson College or in your life at all. Just take a minute to think about that. I want to start off knowing not that we can answer them. Maybe there's some we can answer. If not, we're definitely going to write them down and spend some research time on getting that. So, does anybody have any pressing questions about AI or concerns about AI?
I wouldn't call it pressing necessarily. It just seems to me like a lot of, for a lot of subjects, remediation becomes something that students could do almost independently on a lot of things. Uh, the old model is there's an assessment and then they get feedback on areas they need to go back and review. Well, now you've got this adaptive environment that could point out those areas kind of on the fly,
Mhm.
weekends, evenings, midnight, that kind of thing. So that's interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. How are you seeing this remediation working?
No, I don't see it at all.
Oh,
I just,
theoretically?
I see that as being
Yeah,
something on the horizon or
yeah,
happening already, and I'm not aware of it.
yeah.
And um, and of course, I have the same plagiarism kind of issues that I notice it's all English instructors that have logged in here today. So I'll let you address that.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, more instruction what do they call it? Individualized learning.
Yes.
I'm talking about individualized learning and remediation through AI. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Any other anything you don't know about AI or you want to know, or uh, concerns that can't be answered, perplexities, paradoxes, difficulties, headaches, positives, must have AI tools, anything?
No.
See any must have AI tools out there, Mark?
I haven't been looking. I've been looking towards my retirement, so
Yeah.
yeah. But I am curious.
Mhm. Sure. Okay. Well, it's an open question. If you think of any during this uh, presentation, let us know if any come up. I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint real quick. Slideshow. Are you seeing my slideshow, Regan?
Yes.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay. Today, I'm starting off with this article you're seeing from Tom's Guide. I'm starting off this because a faculty member stopped me today and said, "Did you see something about ChatGPT tried to defend itself when OpenAI was going to shut it down?" And this was from last month. This was from a month ago. And it's called OpenAI's new ChatGPT o1 model will try to escape if it thinks it'll be shut down, and then it lies about it. And in this article, it talked about AI scheming to keep itself from being shut down at another model and then lying and rewriting its own code. Regan, what was your response when you first saw this article?
I read the article and immediately it struck me that they're implying that AI has motives and that it has intentions and that it's capable of independent, actual cognitive thought. And that this is what struck me. This is more of a clickbait article than anything else. More of a not really an educational article, but more of a what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of more of a clickbait article, I guess. That's the actual word I'm looking for, because AI does not have any of those things. It's not capable of cognitive thought. It's not capable of independent action. It's basically just a data processing tool, and that's all it can do. Now, the interface, and this is what Todd and I had discussed earlier, the interface designers essentially can make it imitate conversation. They can make it appear like it's a lot more human than it is, but that's just basically, it's responding without any thought at all. It's responding based on ones and zeros and not on any kind of an intuitive or an intelligent response. And that's what I think Todd and I both took from this article, is that it's not really capable of those kind of intentions.
Mm-hmm. Did anybody else see this article or this topic this week or this last month? I was wondering how pervasive it was that ChatGPT was had given O1 let me see, basically a dictate to preserve yourself at all costs or something like that. And when they were getting ready to shut it down for a newer version, it tried to rewrite its own code and escape being shut down. Did anybody else see this in the news anywhere? Nobody else saw this? Okay, I was wondering how pervasive it was, because it was brought to my attention and we looked at it. And what is your thought on this, Mike, as from a computer scientist? Can ChatGPT rewrite its own code?
Yeah, it's possible it could rewrite its own code. I don't know how successfully it could do that. Mm-hmm. The motivation, as you said, would have to be something they'd pre-programmed into it. Right. But to me, it just sounds like this is a reference to HAL and some of the early science fiction, that it's going to, preserve itself at all costs.
Yeah. That's what we were thinking too when we saw it. So this was an example of a narrative that's still out there quite a bit. And one of the things we noticed reading this article is it's a mixture of anthropomorphism and computer science. And there's a lot of that in all areas of AI, the national AI discussion. There's a lot of anthropomorphism. Even in academic peer review, there's still a lot of anthropomorphism creeps in. It's just so embedded, we've had anthropomorphism embedded in the computer age since the 60s. So it's kind of hard to get away from that. But it's an example of how confusing the narrative can be and what's out there and how it's affecting people, that ChatGPT will achieve sentience. Regan and I sort of thought that idea was put to bed and done with, but it's still there. It's still, even academics thinking that it could have motive, or it does currently have motive. It doesn't have motive, but it's a narrative of kind of an omnipotent AI. And one of the reasons I want to bring it up is one just to try to realize why we need AI literacy, because the more AI literacy we have, the more we can see through some of these narratives. And most of us will see through this anyway, but some of them are more subtle, especially the anthropomorphism that slips in. But the narrative, so one of the things I'm going to move on to is a book I've written that will address this question a little bit. This is a book that came out a little over a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, from MIT, Asamoglu and Johnson at MIT, called Power and Progress, Our 1,000-Year Struggle Over Technology and Prosperity. And this article from the ChatGPT article reminded me of this book because this book talks a lot about the narrative around technology and
It's
questions.
every time I take a drink. Like it doesn't want to go down.
Lisa, I think your audio is on.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I apologize.
Problem. Thanks for showing up.
I'm here for you.
Right.
Okay.
This book I highly recommend because it talks a lot about who controls the narrative over technologies and the vision. And when Regan and I see the article on the ChatGPT, we think, Silicon, the global tech bosses in Silicon Valley, they're not upset about articles like that confuse a little bit what we know about AI and maybe make it seem omnipotent. That maybe is in line with their vision of what they want AI to be. And this book, Power and Progress, talks a lot about this vision. One of the vision our society has for technology is created by the powerful and the wealthy who control technology. The Silicon Valley tech giants who have created AI control the narrative on what AI is and the vision of where it's going to fit into our society. One of the narratives this book talks about is called the prosperity bandwagon, and this book looks at it says that our 1,000-year struggle, but it looks back to the beginning of the agricultural revolution, when hierarchies first developed in civilizations. Who controlled the narrative, and how well did the technology advances of the agricultural revolution help everybody, or did it help a narrow elite? And we see pretty clear that most of the agricultural workers, 4,000 years ago, the agricultural revolution, did not benefit from the agricultural revolution, but it created a wealthy elite who benefited from it. And so this book talks from a very historical perspective over time, including the Industrial Revolution in England, was there actually a broad prosperity that spread to everyone? And in very few cases did that happen. It happened a few times, for example, in the US after World War II, but the narrative that there's a broad-based prosperity that's going to happen simply because of a technological advance is highly questionable. And so this book really lays out, who controls the narrative, how does powerful and wealthy people control that narrative, and why would you want to have a vision or narrative of what you want technology to do? And Regan and I were talking earlier, more than ever in education, now's the time to have a vision and a narrative of what you want technology to do, especially AI. So before we go into more the nitty-gritty of AI literacy, we're just going to take a few minutes to talk about, in just a few minutes, what kind of vision you might want to have that's going to affect. And so basically we're asking you, how do you want, and you're going to figure that out as you're seeing the AI revolution now, how do you want AI to fit into your life? What type of intelligent augmentation or artificial intelligence would you want to see in your life? Which leads me to this article, which if you've heard me talk about AI, you've heard me talk about this article. This was written by Chris Dede and his colleagues at the Harvard Education Graduate School. And it is about intelligence augmentation so basically IA instead of AI. And I'm not saying this should necessarily be your only vision. There's not any other vision, but this is a really good place to start talking about a vision of how we would want AI to fit into our lives, especially in education. And this was written for education. There's a link to the PDF of this article in the chat right now in this Zoom. This is a really interesting article and a very good article. It basically breaks down intelligence. So it takes the intelligence part of artificial intelligence and said, let's break intelligence down into reckoning skills versus judgment skills. And it says the vision we want for AI is we want AI to help us with reckoning skills, but we want to strengthen human judgment skills for ourselves and our students. And this is a really simple vision, but this is one we should hold on to and look at. And maybe this vision will change, but I really encourage you to read this article because it's a really simple and brilliant way to clarify what would be a best case scenario for how you want AI to fit into your life and into education. And then the only thing else I'll say about this article is it does break down intelligence into reckoning skills versus judgment skills. We're gonna have AI do as many reckoning skills as we can, but then he really breaks down what we mean by these judgment skills that we're going to be developing for ourselves and our students. And he breaks them down into 3 different types of judgment skills. He calls them embodied experiential knowing, emotional knowing, and personal performative knowing. So basically, the embodied emotional knowing is emotion, the kind of emotion and how you feel about the information you're working with. And we've known in the last 20 years through neuroscience that emotion is a very important part of intelligence. This thought that emotion is an abstract or intelligence is some abstract thing apart from humans is not true. It's actually, it relies a lot on emotion. And so emotional knowing, and then cultural collective knowing is a second part of judgment skills that humans have that AI does not have. Culture is something that we all know without speaking. It's sort of a knowing we have on an unspoken level that AI does not have. And then the last one is personal performative knowing. Everything from how your personal ability to ride a bike to your personal ethics or values. And so it's a really good breakdown of these 3 types of human judgment skills and why AI is not going to be able to do these skills. And that we, in an ideal world, meaning a world where we're not replaced by AI, but we use AI to augment ourselves, we would use AI to help us with reckoning skills, but we would increase our human judgment skills and in training students, higher level of human judgment skills. And then my last thought on that is, most of you recognize these guys, Picard and Data from StarTech Next Generation. Chris Dede, in his article, Intelligence Augmentation, actually gives this as an example of fictional but successful augmentation of intelligence. This is the kind of human intelligence augmentation we're talking about, where Picard had wisdom, empathy, cultural knowing, experience flying a spaceship through the universe, and Data had immense reckoning skills. So together, they could do things they couldn't do apart. There's many instances in Star Trek where Data wouldn't have, he might have, I don't remember him specifically, he wouldn't have necessarily had the ethics or the vision or wisdom that Picard had. Picard didn't have the computation and reckoning skills. So this was an example of successful intelligence augmentation. Anything I missed, Regan? Any other comments on that before I move on to AI literacy?
I think other than that, we had just spoken with regard to intelligence augmentation. We wanted to make it a point that regardless of our view, we don't want to be replaced. We want to be assisted. We want to be improved.
Right.
And that was the goal, I think, of the article, is that we don't want to help AI replace us. And so we don't want to do anything that's going to make that happen. We want to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, exactly.
In December, I caught a 60 Minutes episode that I don't know if anybody else caught it. It was talking about essentially AI sweatshops in Nigeria, answering questions, identifying objects and images, and labeling them appropriately for AI to identify things and make decisions or based on the identification it was doing. And the focus of the story was the unfair working conditions that these knowledge workers were facing. They had their college degrees or whatever, but they were. It was a sweatshop essentially, and so just part of the doom and gloom. I wonder how much what economic pressures will be out there for people to create the content, answers to questions that will inform the decision branching that AI uses. When do we become part of the sweatshop?
Right.
Sooner rather than later, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, that was just a random thought.
Yeah.
The rabbit trail there.
No, that's good. That's why I keep talking about vision and what kind of vision do we want of how we want AI to fit, especially now because the instructional AI applications are proliferating like spaghetti thrown at a wall. They're just inventing AI applications and throwing them against the wall and seeing which ones stick. I mean, Regan and I are just flooded by new AI applications that are coming out. And so it really emphasized to us, well, what is it that we want? What is our vision? What do we want AI to do for us? And the simplest for us is at this point, we want it to be able to help with reckoning skills, but not to replace us, And that's something that Osamogu and Johnson mentioned in Power and Progress is that over the last 1,000 years, when a technological advance enhanced worker productivity, meaning it helped a person do their job in better ways, it enhanced productivity broadly. But when technology was used to replace workers, such as an automation in the job industry, in those cases, prosperity wasn't broadly shared. So it's really important that we have a vision, a countervailing vision to the trillion-dollar visions of the ed tech industry, which has its very powerful vision that is going to keep going to come at us, And so it's more important than ever that we think through, and you think through personally, how do you want AI to fit into your life and how is it beneficial? So moving on to AI literacy. I'm just going to start off with some common definitions, and I'm relying on Regan and Mike Perry, especially as a expert in computer science, to correct or nuance some of these definitions for us. But we're going to give some common AI definitions and then some emerging AI definitions. So AI, everybody knows, it's computer software that mimics human cognitive abilities. It does not have intelligence. That's a misnomer. If you look at the definition of what intelligence it is, it mimics cognitive ability. We'll be going over in a little bit about what a neural net works, how a neural net works, and how artificial intelligence works, basically. But it mimics human cognitive abilities. There's some disagreement on this. This one, machine learning, some of the definitions I've seen is that it's a subset of AI wherein algorithms are trained to perform a very specific task. So it's not a more general transformer task, but a specific task such as recommending your next video. Some computer scientists I've talked to have said actually AI is a subset of machine learning instead of machine learning being a subset of AI. Do you have a thought on that, Mike?
It's kind of a definitional issue.
Right.
If you call it machine learning, well, anything the computer does is a machine learning.
Yeah, okay.
But technically, machine learning is just that one subset where you train it. These are pictures of cats. These are pictures of dogs, and let it figure out the algorithm. So I would agree with your first definition. Machine learning is a subset.
Okay. So there is a difference between AI and machine learning, which is usually a more focused, specific task. Like I think, correct me if I'm wrong. So Google helping you pick your driving route on your phone, is that a machine learning?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Machine learning is just one way to train a model.
Okay.
You could also train it in the sweatshop, like Mark was talking about. There's multiple ways to train a model.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an example that people might be familiar with of something that's machine learning?
Do you know, you often see those CAPTCHA things trying to get onto a web page saying we're proving you're not a robot.
Oh, yeah.
And you're clicking and picking, these are all the pictures that have bridges in them.
Yeah.
That is actually an input to an AI that they're using that to teach the AI how to recognize bridges out of photographs.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. That's
a human assisted
Yeah.
machine learning.
Yeah. Nice. Good definition. Thank you. Okay. And then deep learning, I have it as a subset of machine learning in which artificial neural networks that mimic the brain perform more complex reasoning tasks without you. So basically, deep learning is neural networks. Once you start getting into what a neural network is, and I'm going to be giving an example of what neural networks are. Natural language processing, a subset of machine learning, focus on creating software capable of interpreting human communication. So natural language processors like ChatGPT can recognize text and speech, and some of them images as well. And robotics, subset of AI, computer science, and electrical engineering focus on creating robots capable of learning and performing complex tasks. So that's a separate, again, definitional, but robots can use AI or machine learning, but they themselves are usually performing actions in the world, such as building automobiles at manufacturing plants and stuff like that. Also involves AI. Generative AI is just AI that can generate text, image, or video, usually using a transformer and a neural net, which we'll talk about. And I said generative AI, but as opposed to general AI, which you'll hear talk about, correct me if I'm wrong, general AI is kind of the holy grail of the artificial intelligence industry, where they would create human-like intelligence, actual intelligence, but has not been achieved yet. So a lot of, for like the example, the article we started out with sort of seemed to confuse general intelligence with generative intelligence, which general intelligence, if and when that's developed, supposedly would have intent, like Skynet had in the Terminator.
Hey, Todd.
Yeah.
And also that word generative, implying that it generates, that's kind of a misnomer, because AI doesn't technically, even those text and image and video generating applications aren't really generating anything. They're taking bits and pieces of other images and stock footage. They're taking things that have already been generated, and they're just recombining them. That would actually be a better name would be recombinant. It doesn't really, you see, when you say generate, you're implying that it has intuition and it has creative ability, and it doesn't really. It's just remixing other things, and that's not really That's
right.
Just my interpretation, but I think that there is a lot of research out there that will support that as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, good discussion. Emerging AI definitions. You're going to see a lot of, probably what you're going to see now, other than just using ChatGPT or Claude or Llama, is instructional AI, a subset of generative AI that's used in education and focused on pedagogy. And that's something that is, there's so many of those are generating right now that Regan and I can't keep up with them. We're looking at different ones, and we'll talk more about some instructional AI. But in education, you're going to be looking specifically at instructional AI, and you're going to be seeing AI just appearing in instructional tools you've already used, like ScreenPal, Screencast-O-Matic, or Cengage. You're going to start seeing AI appear in those things. Like I've seen them appear in SurveyMonkey, and there's not always transparent that it is an AI that you're dealing with, which is an issue. And then another emerging definition is intelligence augmentation, which I talked about earlier. This idea from Harvard Graduate School, separating reckoning skills and judgment skills. This is an idea to be aware of. Something I think a lot of you, I know Gene is aware of this, and Lisa, this book, Teaching with AI, A Practical Guide to a New Era of Human Learning, is the best that we've found so far on teaching with AI, the different issues and concerns around AI, how to make it work, good applications for it. And I don't know if Jean has an update on this, but I think her department was going to do a 4-part workshop in February with Edward Watson, one of the teachers of this. And
Chase, when we had our meeting today, told everybody about it.
oh, okay.
And so he threw it open to the whole college.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Well, I gather people email Chase if they're interested.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. And my understanding is that Dava was going to buy that book for anybody who signed up for that workshop. Did you hear anything about that, Lisa, on your ability to acquire that book, or Alvin?
I was, I look so familiar. Did I buy this? I'm thinking I bought it.
Maybe. I think David was going to reach out to see if you had a deal on mass producing it, because I think we're going to be buying a lot of them. So.
Oh, so I hadn't known anything about that. So that was the
Okay.
question. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean mass? Like 100 copies or?
Well, it depends on how many sign up for it. I'm guessing at least 20, but hopefully more.
Well, we can pick up 20. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Is this for this author speak thing?
Yes.
Okay. So just let me know
Okay.
if I need to get 20, 25, 30.
Okay.
Now 100, we might have to negotiate.
Yeah. Okay.
But other than that, yeah.
We do have 2 copies, one here and one at South Campus.
Okay.
I
Excellent.
had bought
it is-
that.
Yeah, it's already so it's in the collection.
Yeah, I thought I had bought it, but this is for the class needs, or the author speak. We'll pick that up.
Yeah, right.
So, Gene and Todd, that to your knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. This is an excellent book. It covers thinking with AI, teaching with AI, has a part on learning with AI, writing in AI, AI-assisted faculty, the all-important chapter on cheating and detection, which continues to be, I don't know, I want to call it the bugbear of the AI world, is what to do about that. And we'll come back to that too. Excellent book. We're going to start buying a lot of these. And then my definitions part 2 from this book, neural network. And I'll show an image of this in a minute. It's basically a computing system that models the human brain, the neural connections in the human brain. Machine learning plus a neural network equals the foundational models. And the foundational models are, in this definition, at my level of AI, foundational model is ChatGPT or Claude or Google Bard, et cetera. And I say my level of understanding, because in computer science, the word foundation, I realize the word foundational model means something different than how I'm using it here. But in teaching with AI defines their foundational model as the 6 AI models out there right now: Grok, Pi, Llama, ChatGPT, Claude, and one other. Can't think of it at the moment. Pi, I think. Did I say Pi? Maybe I said Pi. I like to test myself live in person every now and then. And then fail. And then parameters, internal variables in a neural network. It can be tuned or adjusted to change the output, also called weights between nodes in the neural network. When I show my image in just a second, you'll be able to see a little bit more what this neural network and parameters means. Tokens, I don't know, Mike might have to help me. Tokens, so a digital stand-in for words or other data. So my understanding is before there were tokens, you put words or numbers through a neural network and it couldn't identify, for example, homonyms, words that sound alike or are spelled alike but have different names, like synonyms and homonyms couldn't be represented. But tokens are a way of transforming a word or a number into a stand-in for data. So my understanding, and I'm still developing this, is words go into, our question in words goes into ChatGPT, and those words are turned into tokens. Each word has a specific digital representation, and that's that representation that's put through the neural network. How far off am I, Mike?
Yeah. Oh, that was very good definition. And the computer science term we'd use is a hash. You've turned a word into a number.
Okay. Okay. Good. Nice. Transformers provide every token with a weight that allows tokens to be compared to any other token simultaneously. Yeah. So transformers and parameters. I'm probably still trying to understand the difference between transformers and parameters, but we'll look at the neural network in a second and try to visualize that in there. And then I talked about a minute ago, artificial general intelligence, that someday AI will be able to think, make decisions, and even feel like humans can. I don't know. From my background in philosophy, I'm going to say this isn't going to happen. There may be something that happens that they call general intelligence, and that is going to be very close to it, but it's going to be the difference between theories of mind. Like the theory of mind used in computer science is the computational theory of mind, meaning that human brains act like computers and computers work like human brains. But in philosophy, the more accepted, correct me if I'm wrong, Gene, theory of mind is the embodied consciousness theory of mind. I think the computational theory of mind doesn't hold a lot of weight within philosophy. Human brain does not work like a machine, and that a machine is not going to function with emotions, which implies that basically the embodied consciousness theory of mind implies that consciousness has a body, meaning it's alive and it's within life. So I'm not saying computer science won't come up with some amazing tools, and it maybe come up with one called artificial general intelligence, but from a philosophical point of view, until they can create life, they're not going to create the kind of intelligence that we have, because it's not separate from having a body and an environment that you're embodied. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's my prediction. Anybody else want to weigh in on that one?
I agree with you there. I think a lot of the confusion, you were talking about anthropomorphizing, it's just us as humans. We're adding that. And so I think when we're talking AGI, we're talking a whole different animal than AI.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yep. And then lastly, I think prompt engineering. I think everybody has somewhat of a level of awareness of, I think everybody here has a good level of awareness of what prompt engineering is. But prompt engineering is something we'll have to learn as faculty and something we'll have to teach our students. And later in this, a few minutes, I'll show you my AI literacy class in Canvas, which will introduce students to prompt engineering. So here is a pretty decent representation of a deep neural network. On the left is an input layer, and on the right is an output layer. And for example, one of the first machine learnings that they did was to input. There was an experiment where they wanted to be able to show images of cats to an AI. Over on the left-hand side, the input layer was an image of a cat, and the output layer was, it would identify cat. It would put out the word cat. So each of the vertical layers are the nodes or transformers. Is that right, Mike? The circles are where the weights of each data layer are, right?
Right. That's what's taking those tokens and weighing them and picking the most likely outcome.
Right. So each circle can weigh a different part of the data coming in and give it a value and pass it on to the next layer of the network, which can then pass it through. So it's almost my understanding that each of those little circles or nodes is almost like a small computation that's done on any bit of data that comes in, depending. And so they put an image of a cat in. Each of those nodes on the far left looks at a specific part of it, weights it on how close it is to a cat or not, and passes it to the next layer and to the next layer. And when it comes out, if it says dog, then they know something wasn't right. They have to go back and readjust the weights on that one till it is able to evaluate it as a cat. This is essentially what you're looking at with ChatGPT or other large language models. Is you're looking at a much more complex and layered neural network than this. By many factors of 10 more complicated than this, but basically it's a neural network. It's not doing any thinking. It doesn't have any sentience. It's weighing data, and it's based on the human brain. But as the philosopher Hubert Dreyfus showed in 1965, the human brain is not digital. So the human brain actually isn't digital. This is digital, and it's based on the human brain. But just to go on the record, neurons in the brain are not digital. They're not either an on or off state. And so those foundational models are what we're looking at on this top layer: Gemini, Anthropic, OpenAI, Grok, Inflection Pi, and Llama. For my level of conversation, those are the foundational models of AI that we have right now, meaning those are the main models that are out there. And down below, we have software intermediates for specific functions, and those create the instructional AIs that are down below. And so you can see different ones. Almost all of them right now are being built off of ChatGPT, or not now, as of a year ago. They were mostly being built off of ChatGPT. I know since then, Amazon has invested heavily in Anthropic's Claude, and I'm not sure what other. So a year ago, this is a year ago, so this is ancient history. In AI, this is almost a historic document at this point, because it moves so quickly. But it gives you an example of just the way to visualize how the instructional AI's applications are being built off of the foundational models. And so down below, I haven't looked at all these. I've looked at Jenny AI and Grammarly for sure. And Grammarly has really invested heavily in AI, instructional AI, pretty good too. And I use Research Rabbit. I've looked at GitHub. Is there any of these you've looked at, Regan? Semantics?
Mainly ChatGPT, but also a lot of GitHub. I do a lot of code repositories, and GitHub has always been big. They just recently incorporated AI, but they've always been a place for storing information, storing code, storing content. And particularly since they've gone with Copilot, that's their, I don't know, their forte now is storing and giving you a place to put content on the internet. And that's the other one that I use pretty much frequently.
Yeah. There's also an application called Learnt AI, LEARNT.AI, Learnt AI, that I've been looking at more recently, that shows some promise for being used in educational settings. And so my AI literacy course, which is just called AI Literacy, this is a course in Canvas right now. Any teacher can take it if they want to take it. It's running probably 2 to 2.5 hours for teachers, maybe a little longer if students want to take it. It's just kind of in beta phase right now, where we've had a few people take the course. Like I say, 2.5 hours. It covers all the basics of AI literacy. And best of all, it awards a digital badge when you're done. And this, I think, is going to be really important right now, because right now, our students need AI literacy for the work world, the workplace that they're going to enter. And so there's not a course they can take that I know of at Grayson College right now where they can take AI or document and credential that they have any AI literacy. But if they take my 3-hour course, they'll get this GC AI literacy badge, which they can immediately put on their LinkedIn or resumes or emails or social media, and credential that they have a certain amount of AI literacy. And the end user, the end receiver, the employer who sees this can click on the badge and see what is the information they learned and what does that badge represent, what kind of learning. I'm not breaking it down here in this slide, but the end user, the end employer will be able to see what levels of AI literacy that student has. So even students that are just graduated and graduating next spring are going to be competing against a huge increase in the use of AI and the employers looking for AI. We know.
Todd, didn't we? We'd actually talked about that earlier. Because AI is such a fast-growing field, we're going to have to, and that's what you and I were talking about. We're going to have to get involved in AI, and we're going to have to present AI because it's happening in industry. It's really making inroads into things like manufacturing and things like research, and so they're going to have to learn it somewhere. And if we want to stay current and competitive in the education market, we're going to have to become involved in it. As much as I know a lot of people would just like to make it go away, but unfortunately we can't.
Yeah, and ignoring it's not going to help. It's going to be coming at us. I know that AI, so employers are going to be needing. AI has detected 20% more cancers than were found using the conventional procedures, without increasing numbers of false positives. So in the health industry, they're seeing AI ability to detect cancers. In the law field, large language models are outperforming junior lawyers and legal process outsourcers in determining location of legal issues in contracts. AI has been improving speed and quality of customer service representatives. And one of the quotes I have from Ed Watson, one of the co-authors of Teaching with AI, is working with AI makes you happier because you outsource the tedious work. And the greatest impact is predicted to be on novice and low quality workers. It is believed that every job is going to change. 100% of jobs have at least one task that AI can do better today. So. Oops, I got muted there somehow. Anything I missed, Regan?
No, sir. I think that's, looking at my list, that's pretty much what we talked about.
Okay. All right. Any questions, comments, new directions, things we missed we need to know about? Suggestions? Excitement? Is anybody using AI regularly?
Oh, it's kind of sneaking in around the corners because it's getting added to everything. If you use Grammarly, you use it. If Apple's adding it to various things, it's just kind of sneaking into your life without directly pursuing it.
Yeah. Mary chatted that she's using it. Mary, go ahead.
I was going to add, it's being added to our LMS as an option for faculty, where with McGraw-Hill, we use a video capture product called Go React. Mm-hmm. And during spring semester, Aiden's probably used it as well. They made it available to do AI analysis of the students' oral presentations, which is really nice because the college pays for a big interview. Mm-hmm. And the reason that is so helpful is because it does what a human being can't do. It can look at every single word the student spoke, and it will give information about their speed, the number of times they hesitate. And for us in Go React, in the McGraw-Hill product that's been customized for Grayson, it's in our composition classes, our philosophy, and now even our humanities. When the students speak, it will not only tell them their own rate of hesitation, the pace at which they speak, it'll give them the average of what human beings do. So they'll see how they correlate with others. And then it also catches filter words. So filler words, I should say. Filler words, not just and but if a student repeats a word, like my favorite stalling word for a while was basically. Basically, whenever I didn't know what I needed to say, I would. And so the AI, when you use words like filler words like basically, it will catch them and it will tell the students. And then it's interesting because sometimes we use what AI calls filler words, and I can see what the students get as a report from the AI. And then I can think about it as a human being. Because one of the filler words that people use now is the word just. I'm just saying, people are justing all the time. And sometimes I hear it when students speak, but other times I don't. And I can't tell you why it's audible to me on one student and not on another, but it's the whole context of hearing them.
Yeah.
And so the AI doesn't replace us, but it really gives the students an awareness of their oral speaking patterns.
Yeah.
And I just love that that's available so that I don't have to focus or even care.
Yeah.
But if I want to, it's still in beta mode. I can tell AI what I want it to say, as far as I can tell it to give the students praise, and I can tell it to give the students improvement, and I can tell it which areas I want it to do that in terms of clarity, in terms of conciseness. So I can get the AI to help even evaluate content. I did it just to play with, and it was weird because the AI is so programmed. Like, it's constantly looking for things like, oh, good rhetorical question. But it's not really a rhetorical question, other than there's nobody listening at the time but AI and whoever is at the time listening. So it's not like a live audience. So it called every question that the student raised rhetorical because there wasn't a live audience. And it also picked up on every time the student used an example. Oh, that's good. Examples illustrate. So it says a lot of the same things. Yeah. And if you tell it to use it, like, it does 4 of these, 2 of these, it's truly programmatic.
Yeah. That's an excellent example of using AI to help with reckoning skills. I think we will need to make sure it's accurate because, AI sometimes hallucinates, as they say, or makes mistakes. So we have to still be involved in making sure it's giving them correct, accurate information. Have you been able to verify any of that? Like, have you seen enough of the feedback to see if it's making any?
Oh yeah, every time I before I do my feedback, I say, "Well, what feedback did the AI give the student?" Because I'm not going to repeat it, and then I'll direct the student to things about the AI feedback that I think are useful, and also discount some of the AI feedback. Like, I don't think that was really helpful for you. It didn't come across that way to me as a human listener.
Mm-hmm. Nice, good, excellent. So that's GoReact, right?
GoReact, and it's called video capture in McGraw-Hill. And U of I have looked at the students using it because it's a cool product, because Canvas doesn't do a great job with oral presentation. And now that speech is not a guaranteed core for every student, when we had 9 core communication hours, we've had to distribute speech into a lot of the general curriculum.
Yeah. And so far, GoReact has a thumbs up.
It does. Because we as faculty control it, and a faculty member doesn't even have to turn it on. And I think that's an important thing, because if somebody feels strongly against it, they don't need to use it.
Yeah. I know a faculty member was using another AI video evaluation tool called Notebook, but I don't know if it has a thumbs up or thumbs down yet. I just know that there is another one too. So, Regan, any favorite AIs for you? We have a few more minutes, 4 or 5 more minutes to talk about any technological platforms that you like or recommend, or anybody.
I have a list. I was going to say before that, though, that Gene had mentioned McGraw-Hill. Cengage is also working an instructional AI into their interface. So if you're using a Cengage book of any time, the students have access to an instructional AI that is sort of an assistant, like a tutorial tool that allows them to ask questions and allows them to delve deeper into whatever topics that the book is currently covering at the time. They have an instructional AI that's tied to those topics. And so they're currently rolling that out. Also, that Canvas is working, and I'm going to say working. They've been working since last year. I went to a Canvas symposium, and they are currently looking at integrating AI very deeply into Canvas. In fact, if they do, we looked at the beta, and if they do what they're planning on doing, almost every aspect of Canvas will be AI powered or AI related at that point, because they're looking at not only like feedback, like Gene was saying, and working feedback into it, but also instructional AI and tutorial AIs and interfaces that'll allow the students to get information based on content. If anybody is interested, I do have a list, and I'll put that in the chat. Basically, it's just a list of different tools that we've been researching. It's not by any means comprehensive, but there are some interesting things there that might be useful in your work.
Anybody else have a favorite AI or an AI they've looked at, have feedback on? My favorite is still Research Rabbit, but I also know that the library is working on their own version of a research tool that will probably challenge or be better than Research Rabbit. So I'm going to be interested to see that come out. Other than that, hopefully a lot of people will sign up for the 4-part workshop given by C. Edward Watson, and I think it's also Megan Middlestat from University of Georgia doing that as well. So unless there's any other questions or comments, then we'll call it quits. And thanks everybody for showing up.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thanks a lot. It's great.
Very good. Thank you.
Awesome. Great.